Units of typographic measurement, picas and points. The measurement we use every day, whether they are inches and feet or centimeters and meters, are fixed or absolute measurements. That is, an inch is always an inch and a meter is always a meter. Likewise, type has its own equivalents, which are the pica and its subdivision, the point. Pica is an absolute typographic measurement consisting of 12 points. In general, picas are used for measuring the page dimensions and the dimensions of page elements. The widths of columns of type, for example, are typically expressed in picas, as are page margins and the locations of graphics or other elements on the page. Smaller distances are measured in points alone. Paragraph indents, for example, are often expressed in points. An indent then is likely to be said to be 18 points deep rather than 1 pica and 6 points, or a pica and a half deep. Line spacing or leading is also expressed solely in points. The definition of point sizes goes back to the days of hand set type. The point size of the type was defined by the height of the block from just above the apex of the tallest character to just below the limit of the lowest reaching 1. When fonts went digital, the point size of the type became the height of the bounding box that surrounded each letter. The size of type is measured exclusively in points. In general, the term point size and type size are synonymous. Relative units. Relative units have no fixed value in terms of absolute units such as picas, inches or millimeters. These units of measure grow or shrink in size proportionately as the objects they measure shrink or grow. The fundamental relative unit in typography is the m, and m is the same size as the type currently is being set. So, if you are setting 11 point type and m equals 11 points, m square. A key concept underlying both the design of type and the practice of typography is the m square. As described, the m is the basis for a range of relative units of measurement whose values are contextual. They depend on the size of the type they are used in. The widths of characters are expressed in such relative units, which are fractions, typically thousands of an m. The m square represents the canvas on which typographic characters are drawn. It is square 1 m wide and 1 m tall. Anatomy. The most basic component of typography is the letter, and each letter of the alphabet is distinguished by its unique shape or letter form. As a human body has many parts for identification like head, neck, shoulder, arms, tail, foot, etc., type forms or font face are also divided into parts, which we study under anatomy of fonts. The words we use to describe the shapes of letters are combination of terms born over many centuries in many countries and for the disciplines of both typography and calligraphy. Let us analyze the individual parts that compose letter forms as well as the boundaries by which letter forms are defined. The boundaries, the baseline, the imaginary horizontal line upon which the majority of the characters in a typeface sit, called the baseline. The baseline is a fundamental reference. Line spacing or leading is measured in points from baseline to baseline, normally from the baseline of one line of the type to the baseline of the preceding line. Cap line. Cap line is the imaginary horizontal line resting upon the tops of the uppercase letters. Mean line. Mean line is the imaginary horizontal line that designates the height of the lowercase letters. X height. Traditionally, x height is the height of the lowercase letter x. As a general rule, x height is the height of the body of lowercase letters of a typeface, excluding the ascenders and descenders. Some lowercase letters may extend a little bit above or below the x height as part of their design, even without ascenders and descenders. X height can vary considerably among typefaces with the same point size, which is based on the width of certain uppercase letters. Letterform parts. Apex. Apex is a peak of an uppercase A. Arm. Arm is a horizontal portion of a letterform, one or both ends of which are unattached to the vertical portion or portions. Ascender. The portion of a lowercase letterform, for example, K, B or D, that ascends above the x height of the typeface. Beak. Akin to a spur, but slightly larger, the projection that extends from the end points of an uppercase L, T or E. Bowl. A curved portion of the letterform that encloses a counter, the exception in the lower curved part of a lowercase g. Bracket. The curve that connects the serif to the stem or stalk may also be referred as a fillet. Counter. The negative space of a letterform. A counter may either fully or partially enclosed. Crossbar. The horizontal part of a letterform that connects, for example, a stem to a hairline. Crosstalk. The horizontal part of a letterform that intersects the vertical part. Descender. The portion of a lowercase letterform, for example, Y, P or Q, that descends below the baseline in a typeface. In some typefaces, the uppercase J and Q also descend below the baseline. Ear. The small decorative projection from the upper right side, a lowercase g. Eye. The enclosed portion of a lowercase e, similar to a counter. Hairline. The thinnest line of a typeface made of varying line weights. Leg. The lower angled stalk of a K. Link. The part of a lowercase g that connects the loop to the bowl. Loop. The curved part of a lowercase g that encloses the lower counter, similar to a bowl. Serif. A small decorative line added to the end of a letter forms a stem and stalk. Serifs improve readability by leading the eye along a line of type. One of the basic ways of categorizing typefaces is to distinguish those with serifed faces from those without. The latter are called sans serif faces, literally meaning without serif. Sans is a French word which means without. Serifs are not just decorative elements, they are important visual aids that help the eye to differentiate one character from the other. The characters of serif text are thus somewhat more legible or easier to recognize. There are many kinds of serifs varying widely in shape, size and bulk. Bracketed serifs. Bracketed serifs are probably the most familiar kind, as they are used in the majority of common text faces. A bracketed serif blends into the main stalk of the letter with a smooth curve. Unbracketed serifs. Unbracketed serifs met the main stalks at a sharp angle. The serifs themselves may be mere hairlines, thicker slabs, or even wedges. The overall effect is to give the letter a more angular, crisply defined shape. Slab serifs. Slab serifs give their name to a whole category of typefaces. These faces, which usually feature a uniform stroke thickness, are not based on calligraphic forms. Typefaces that have bracketed slab serifs are usually called clarendons. Hairline serifs. A hallmark of the so called modern typefaces, hairline serifs are extremely fine and unbracketed. Wedge serifs. As the name implies, wedge serifs are triangular. There are many wedge serif faces, and those that do exist are usually called latins. Spine. The main portion of the letter S, both lowercase and uppercase, that curves from left to right. Spur. The projection that extends from the end point of the curved portion of a letter form, example, from the top or bottom of an uppercase or lowercase s or c. A spur is smaller than a serif. Stem. The main vertical or near vertical portion of a letter form. Stroke. The main diagonal portion of a letter form, though this term is often used to refer to any of the main portions, vertical, near vertical or diagonal of a letter form. Tail. The stroke or loop at the end of a letter form, such as the tail of an uppercase Q or the stroke of an uppercase R. Terminal. The end or termination of a stem or stroke with no serif.